back and refer to it. Okay, thanks for your time, gentlemen. Randy and Josh Castro and Bob Scapoletti. This is a regularly scheduled teleconference we have to discuss telecommunications issues. So we're now on to Randy's screen, and this is a more specific discussion of the general problem of space in telecommunications rooms. So go ahead, Randy, it's your airplane. Speak your heart.
Okay. Well, once again, this is a document that we got updated about a year or so ago, working with facilities with Jim Harvey and Adam Damaris, Josh, and myself. There may have been a couple others I might be missing. But it was just trying to get it to be more current, and it's an amendment from the ITS SBA, which they may rename theirs too right here to a different numbering convention recently. So it covers a lot of the stuff that we talked about, things that we added. Unfortunately, I can't show you the old ones side by side, but we cover the ANSI, TIA references for all the building standards. We added the 1179, which is the ANSI TIA version of this BICSI document pretty much. It's the Healthcare Facility Infrastructure Standards. We added that stuff as references. Adam, as you mentioned the ASHRAE, we didn't have that on before. Adam was adamant about using that as a standard, not the BICSI terminology for it. And so we have that. We changed the definitions to be more concurrent with the current BICSI standards. Instead of IDFs, MDFs, we're using the terminology that is, across the board with BICSI, a little definition there. And then, we're kind of led by networking's desire of what they want, their uptimes and their service level tiers. So networking's created service level tiers such as bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And that's how our closets are designed, to meet their tiers. And so that was kind of a change that the campus may or may not have. At the Children's and Women's Hospital, they wanted to put redundant switches in every closet. So that doubled the power, doubled the fiber, stuff like that. So we can't have a cookie cutter design of 12 single, 12 multi, and 130 amp and so forth. Like Josh says, each building design is dependent on what the standard's going to be. For example, a remote office site to networking is silver or bronze. There is no redundancy. The issues that we're running in today is we're converting those sites to IPT and VoIP. Well, as Bob knows, we're used to our phone systems having a 4-hour battery backup. Now we're going PoE over Chuck's data network that is bronze. So we're fighting those battles right now for a smaller site and dealing with stuff like that. But we have this footprint here for what they have for service tiers, which that's networking, not telecom, unfortunately. The general requirements is what we run into here. And like Josh said, I've got a project right now with West Ann Arbor being built. Mary Pinniger's doing it, and she's on top of it. Maybe it's the lessons learned from Northville, but everything I've asked for, they're, oh yeah, sure. And the same with pathology moving to the old Pfizer property. I'm sorry, that's the Mary Pinniger one. West Ann Arbor is the OX Architects reaching out to me, and that's going to be a Mark Danzig, Ron Darwin. But we are to the point right now with healthcare that they are getting past the AEC document and getting to ours, and that's good for us. So we have this kind of this is a BICSI generic standard in here, and this probably should be updated a little bit because it says provide a minimum of 1 TR per floor right here.
Yep, for every 10,000 square feet.
For every 10,000 square feet being served. So a 50,000 square foot building, subtract 20% of it, you're probably at 42,000 usable square feet. That should be 4 closets. Well, at Northville, I got 3.
Yeah.
But can I make 3 work? Sure, as long as I've got 90 meters to the furthest work area. Yeah. And then here, the 1 TR every 300 voice data being served. Well, I just said earlier that I'm good with 400 voice data outlets per rack. And in a 10 by 13 room, I can get 3 racks in there. ideally 2 of the racks are voice data. So that's 800. That's pretty much my max that I try to stay at, is 800 per closet. That gives me 2 racks, all voice data, the 3rd rack for anything else that we can think of that comes up. And so this could be changed a little bit, and then we talked about the distance below it. And we're meeting that right now, so we're pretty satisfied with that.
And so let me stop you for a second. Do any of those things that you're talking about go contrary to any of the standards that are out there and published in general? I don't see anything there that's really contrary. I mean, they're tweaked a little, but they're not saying anything contrary to what anybody's been saying on any of the standards, as far as I can tell.
No, it's not contrary, because we use that as a guide, and we wanted to be consistent what was being said across the country and other healthcare facilities. You know, we've visited other ones. We've had communication or collaboration with other large hospital environments. They actually, facilities actually, I think Jim Harvey pulled back on some of the things that we wanted to incorporate, that it was kind of heavy for, you know, what they needed. So, you know, if you compare it to the whole scheme of things as far as the standards, you know, this is just kind of a snapshot, and there are a lot of, you know, gaps that can be filled in. And so this is guidance for the architects, for the designers, when they are building out the floor plan and designing for communication rooms. So as long as we're involved in the project, we can ensure that somebody doesn't try to pull out, you know, a comm closet for an office manager space or something, you know. So
that's never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we like, again, because this is tested and proven, and this, you know, the governing body obviously has a lot of data to support these square footages, these standards. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we just incorporated them to our local or internal standards. But again, a large part of it is educating other design people or management or departments on why you need the amount of space you need, why you need to remove abandoned cable, why you need to pay for a new cable, why, you know. So a lot of it just educating. And Randy and I sometimes are fighting on our own, because again, a lot of people, even, you know, in our management, have never even heard of BICSI. They don't know anything about BICSI. They don't know anything about the standards. And so people focus on cost. Well, how much is it going to cost?
And once again, this document is only covering closets right now. It's not covering cabling and that's conduit pathways. Those are other separate documents here. This is the one that we've been able to get updated to meet our needs. So for example, the West Ann Arbor, when I talk to builders the people out there, it's a 75,000 square foot building. Told them I need a minimum of 2 closets per floor at 10 by 13 and a building entrance at, I think they're giving me 10 by 16, which is, you know, gets us in this range. It's not bad. But when you're bringing in 300 pair and some fiber from the outside, maybe Comcast and other stuff that's going to take up wall space. Out at Northville, we put in a paging system for security. You know, I've got a rack and a half available over there for future growth. That's what they don't like, future growth. They don't like to see stuff empty. And we try to allow for future growth without over designing. So as I scroll through here, this is all generic BICSI stuff that also Bob, when Bob was director, he had in his guidelines the standard room size, the wall size, the backboards, the firewall boards, the lighting, all this is generic. Here is where we differ a little bit different again, and this is based on the hospital standards, and it recently changed. It was one 30 amp 208 and two 20 amp 208s, but networking decided they didn't want to do that model anymore, so now we're doing two 30 amp 208s with PDUs in every closet. So we did recently have this updated to meet that. A UPS, a general purpose plug. So we're getting all this stuff right now, which is good. And
you're doing very good if you're getting all that.
In the hospital, yeah, pathology.
Like I said, we've been creative. Whenever we encounter resistance, Randy and I would just kind of put our heads together. Again, when they've tried to shrink it down, we call out the ADA, we call out the NFPA, any type of code that, once you mention the word code, I mean, a lot of them don't even research it. In the meetings, we just bring it up and say, this is the reason why. Occasionally you'll get a challenge, but we're able to support it, and so that's helped us to be able to keep them from, diminishing what we've established. But we've made some headroom since we both we're passionate about it. I mean, it's not something we just ignore and let them kind of walk over, because we realize this has long-term consequences. If you start running J-hooks, you're going to save money in the short term. But yeah, imagine 10 years from now, people are running cable in that plenum space, and you have 4-inch J-hooks. It's going to be a spaghetti mess, and someone else is going to have to deal with that issue. So we're very interested, in working together and just sharing ideas and trying to come up with some great solutions.
Yeah.
And then real quick, we're almost here at the end of this. This is the mechanical area. Adam Damaris contributed all this to meet the ASHRAE standards. It went away from our typical BICSI language that you might see in the TIA or the ANSI BICSI document here. And then these are dependent on the buildings, the power, how it changes. And this is over design right here. This is C&W, where he had 2 30 amps and 4 20 amps. We shouldn't see that anymore. But if we build a new closet in C&W, we'd obviously like to keep it the same. And here's the biggest thing. This is I think this is just right off of probably Bob's old page. Obviously you want to stack the closets the best that you can. And here's our closet layout. That if you look at page 11 of this BICSI document, the healthcare standard ones, we kind of are doing a 3-rack layout in a 10 by 13 closet. I'm not sure we can go 4 here with the door. They show 1, 2, 3, 4, and an option for a 5th. But when you need 3 feet of clearance on front and back and on the side of it, with the door not swinging out, which we asked for, but we don't typically get in the hospital because obvious reasons. We feel that with a 10 by 13, we can do 3 racks. We're doing 10-inch wire management now for the amount of data. We've got our cable tray around the room. We've got the wall space reserved for non-MCIT equipment. That's your nurse call. That's your distributed antenna system stuff. Any specialty systems that may arise. I did put DAS over here, actually. We have our riser cable. We have our conduits coming in. Probably the biggest thing we don't do, Bob, I don't know if you did it, was just tying all the rooms together with a separate conduit. We just use the cable tray system when we're going between the closets.
Yeah, we didn't require a separate pathway.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing we don't from a BICSI standard guideline. So I think we're doing pretty well here. I'll try to pull up another one real quick. Let's see if I can. Oh, you are sharing. Okay, you're seeing my page. This is the one that I believe needs to be addressed. If I can find the electrical. Electrical. So you've got the voice data. This is yours, though. This is AC's. Let me get back to facilities. Where did they put it? They changed all the naming on me. So
have you guys had, AEC has actually rewritten some of our specs. Have they rewritten any of yours after you submitted them?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, it's not that they've done it without notification. They've had notified us that they had intended to ask for input. But, yeah, there were some changes made to some of the stuff we submitted. I didn't know if you had any relationship with them where they submitted changes to you based on, and some of it was basic stuff, backboard requirements, electrical, that kind of thing. So.
Nobody's reached out to us for that, probably because they might just go straight to facilities, and then facilities doesn't filter to us sometimes. It's
part of it too is, Bob, you're familiar with just groups not, we hear a lot like, well, we didn't know who to call, we didn't know who to contact, you know.
Yeah.
So we need, you know, somebody to kind of raise that awareness at a higher level, at, you know, at a director position or management position, that, you know, here we're the group, we're here, you know, to support, we want to be a part of this. Some of the challenges of, you know, dealing with AEC is they're, you know, some of them are objective is to just get it in, you know, be on time and on budget. So that, you know, anything extra would be obviously going to be an extra cost, you know, if you have to put 2 more comm closets in, or, you know, cable tray or anything like that. So
they seem to not have our 16740 on here. It's 272. It would be under electrical. Electrical. Oh, here we go. Thank you. And then so here's our hospital version of we got cable trays. It's this guy right here, where I've looked at several other things. This one's not been. It says March 2014, but I don't know who made a change to that. I tried to incorporate them all into one document, and Jim didn't like that. So we have to kind of break sections out. But right here is where, you know, you talk, we don't, something that the healthcare thing has in the, where's it? Yeah, I gave it to the TIA one. The TIA one, they have a matrix of how many work areas, depending on the entity of the room, whether if it's a office or a lab or an exam room or a critical care room, and that's where we don't have anything to state what we're doing. It'd be nice to maybe do that. Check-in areas, check-out areas. Before we used to just do 3 cables, 2 voice, 2 data. And in an office environment, well, in the VoIP world, now we're just pulling 3 cables, they're all data because of VoIP being over data now. But in a BICSI standard for an office of 10 by 10 is 2 outlets per office. That's 6 cables. And there might only be 1 desk in that office. Now we're over designing now, and we put a phone and a computer on there, and it's using 1 port, maybe leave 1 for a printer. What are we doing with those other 4 cables for the next 10 years? But if they go to add another person in there, you're kind of set, but we can't project that. And then, so we're trying to scale back to only 2 cables per an office desk. But then at the checkout areas, now they've got label printers for everything. You need a minimum of 4. And critical care rooms, it's
or the nursing areas,
it's tough to get the cable count right.
It's not cookie cutter.
And a lot of that, the critical care, they just redesign. You can tell facilities went through with somebody and said, Bob, what do you need? And you're like, I need a computer here, here, and here. And Mike, what do you need? Well, I need a computer here, here, and here. So they got 6 triangles on the drawing. Well, 6 triangles on the drawing for me is 18 cables, 3 piece. So that's what we got in. We've got 15 outlets in there, 3 cables a piece, and then I go back a month later when it's open and nothing's being used.
Yeah.
So we need a matrix for the work areas and stuff like that. Is where I believe this document may help us. And is this the one that has the matrix? I believe it does.
And then what we do too is Randy and I will discuss like lessons learned, like on past projects, and try to incorporate those lessons on the future ones, so that we don't continue to make the same mistake, and allow others to determine, you know, what is needed, because we can bring those events back up and discuss them and say, well, this is what happened last time. This is what's needed. You know, so we try to take the approach of what is needed. We try to be flexible, working well with others, playing, you know, in the stand well together, because we're trying to establish relationships with other departments. And again, to emphasize, you know, our goal is not to over design but to provide enough for the future. You know, the cabling life is a lot longer than, you know, the PC life, and so we have to install cabling or communication rooms so that they'll be capable of handling any future applications, hardware. You know, so we're not going to shortchange the customer because, you know, the project wants to save on cost.
And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like this is an AEC one also. So it looks like the planning. It looks like, oh, here is ours, right below yours.
Supplemental.
Yeah, so we have some subtle differences, but not much. I always thought this was just kind of messy.
Yeah.
We run into a lot conduit size for some reason. Somewhere back in the day, ours is an inch, campus is 3/4. So depending on what design guideline or where the guy used to work in, you'll show up and it'll be the wrong size. And I don't fight about that too much because I'm only putting 3 cables in it anyway.
Yep.
But we'll run into that occasionally. And I believe I can put up to 8 Cat 6 cables or 5 Cat 6 cables into a 3/4 inch. So I'm not going to ever exceed that. I don't know what direction we want to head with this, but it's nice to get some stuff out on the table.
Yeah, like I said, I was unfamiliar with the document. I knew it existed, and I haven't dug around there. Well, it's been gone 3 years, so I haven't dug around on the site to see what people have posted.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing, first of all, just to recount my understanding, is that we started this call as the usual, restating the usual lament about space. But as I came to listen to this, some remedies to some of your problems came to mind. First of all, you want to make sure you have the space, and you have to project your interest at the AE level and the planning part of a project. And of course, you are doing operations and maintenance, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that ongoing, and of course, underlying it all are changes in technologies, and so how do you strengthen your arguments? And of course, you say that if you say to an AE, it's code, then there's no argument from there on. And usually, codes are safety oriented. Now, so once you've assured public safety, now that could also be reliability too. So especially in telecommunications, reliability is very closely associated with safety. So. But beyond that, now we're looking at what may be considered standard of care, and it's a particularly acute consideration in hospital systems, and that's why you see that that BICSI has a standard that, and once again, ASHRAE's got themselves into healthcare also, healthcare and communications. Again, I told you that they were trying to regulate smart grid, and it looks like they're already in regulating data centers. You have to give them credit for knowing where the market is. Okay, I see here a couple guys, and they have the inherited wisdom of many generations of engineers, and I see a standard solution. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take the screen here. I actually do have a time limit here, and we'll just have to spread this out. I'm glad we talked this way. I'm glad we got away from 002. So I can explain a little bit more what I think, where we might help you for an enduring and faster moving solution. So this is what we originally had our call for, but it didn't take long to realize that this document, in my estimation, may not move as fast as the technology requires. BICSI does not do what's called a continuous maintenance type of a standards development program. Their documents move every 5 years. Why is that important? Because I'm going to show you something that ANSI does. There's of the 250, maybe 300 standards developers in the United States, a few of them are on what's called a continuous maintenance platform. Boy, my computer's slow. I wanted to show you those organizations. While we wait for that to come up, it's probably, ANSI server has been rather slow lately, but, put the slowness of the U of M system on. My computer is generally pretty fast. One of the things that you're able to do is allow your leading practice discovery to proceed in 30-day intervals. So I think what I did is I showed you this before, and if you go to what ASHRAE does, and this is what makes ASHRAE so powerful, is that they have core documents, like here's one, this is the Green Building Standard. They make changes, sometimes they're large, sometimes they're small, but the public normal standards development occurs in roughly 30-day intervals. I would argue that unless it is a national security issue, that really 30-day intervals is unfair to many of the stakeholders, ours included, because we simply don't have time. And some of them are just relatively minor changes. So, for example, here, once again, the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration Engineers are into lighting. You don't see anybody. You'd think IEEE would be in this space. They're actually not. So this is an energy consideration, though. They've claimed that space, so you can see what they're doing here. So this is just some strike and bold, relatively minor stuff. Why is it important? It's that I believe that your industry, especially because of healthcare needing to move quickly, probably should be on a continuous maintenance program. And ANSI notifies everybody every week of the standards developers that are making changes every 30 days. They're making changes every 30 days. Now, for the life of me, I don't understand why the Auto Glass Safety Council has to change their standards every 30 days. I do understand why Underwriters Labs might want to do that, because there's consumer products they have to deal with. I can understand why NSF International has to do standards changes every 30 days, because they deal with water quality, food quality, and such and so forth. Sometimes ASTM. But you're getting some organizations that are doing that for mercantile or for economic and competitive reasons are putting themselves on a continuous maintenance platform. And I started to recommend something here. This would be we may change the scope, but one of the things when you make a new IEEE standard, one of the first things you want to do is see if there's anybody else in the space, and generally IEEE will not do a standard if it's dominated by, if there's already what we'll call incumbents, other organizations that are claiming the space, unless you have an approach which solves the safety and so best practice problems that they like to advertise their standards for. So I would recommend, if you want some of this stuff, some of your ideas that you talked about, to have some basis in what would be considered a standard. It's not a code, it's a standard, but it becomes a standard of care, and then it gets referenced in the AEC and other documents. This is pretty much one of the main reasons that we founded this committee over here, and I did this with Jim Harvey about 1.5 years ago, and it was intended to be a landing page or a place where you can work with colleagues with IEEE. They are a standards developer, just like BICSI, but you would have a way to some place to vet some of your ideas. By the way, you're welcome to come to our conference here. It's going to be in Detroit, so that's please feel. It's just up the road from you in May. So one of the things we did is we've been gathering. Now we're only really since October we've been getting organized, but we're going to all the different universities around the country and gathering what their specs are, so that at least we can all look at each other's stuff. You can see very easily that we don't have a lot of them right now. There's probably thousands of them that we probably want to pull together. So that's a place where things could be gathered. But if a standard solution, and you're talking to a standards guy, okay, I look for standard solutions and I see the mechanisms could be done. And the only criteria, I think the only resistance you would have to IEEE, and I would recommend an IEEE BICSI, because you don't want to alienate BICSI, but you're asking both IEEE and BICSI to move faster. You want them to move faster so that you will have a basis, some technical basis in your negotiations with AECs. And AEs will also say, well, look, it was in the latest version of the IEEE BICSI standard for telecommunication facilities. We just call it in healthcare facilities. Okay, we'll just do that. So that's a solution that I would propose, and all that's necessary is to seat a committee, a balance committee, and to start writing. What do you think? Maybe you need to think about it. Maybe we should talk more about it. But that's a solution, and you simply start writing, and you start promulgating your own standard.
Well, it sounds like we were kind of running parallel with some of the same work. Randy and I we actually were going physically out to these sites. We had set up meetings, and we actually made some contacts through the BICSI conferences, and so we're interested, I mean, Randy's talked about it, joining the committee and being a part, because we feel we have a lot to contribute, as far as our experiences, and we can relate to a lot of the people in our same field or industry. So just to make a quick comment about the BICSI thing, we've taken several BICSI classes, and I think part of their struggle is from one of their instructors had mentioned that with the old regime, there's a lot of red tape in order for them to incorporate any new standards, any new updates. It has to go through this rigorous process, and as stated before, technology moves so fast that it's sometimes not even relevant by the time it's published, Well,
that's particularly the case in your discipline. That's why I think the investment in a standards development platform like ASHRAE's, for example, is significant, but it's not one that you can't manage. And frankly, because I work with them all, I know how it could be done relatively economic. You approach IEEE and you propose a joint standard, and it may be that this is a technological area that needs the gravitas of both of organizations. And of course, U of M would be the driver, and we would have, we've got the platform to make this happen. But how can we make a document give the results that you want? A document is supposed to represent the best thinking at the moment, and you're in BICSI. You can see it when you're filled with volunteers. You always. I guess. Do you guys know this guy?
I've met him.
Okay.
Todd Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they may be receptive to going on to a continuous maintenance platform, but that way, I believe that you could probably write a lot of your own agenda in there as a first draft. Others will want to modify it, but that's a solution I proposed to you, and this is something that has to be jawbone for a while. But as an engineer who wants to provide solutions and make your past half hour with me meaningful, that's what I would recommend. And we would take this document. Remember, I spotted this particular document because I knew that ANSI requires an upgrade every 5 years. So we know that the next upgrade will have to be either reaffirmed. You reaffirm what you've already got in here, which seems crazy that you would even try to do something like that, or that you try to, or that you revise it. So maybe you could put a lot of your ideas into the 2017 revision, and Bob and I, we recorded our ideas. I think we've written some of them down, but we may just say, let's put this on a different platform altogether. And so that's a thought.
Randy, have you considered being on the healthcare committee for BICSI?
I would like to. I don't know what's involved with it. I did meet a guy who was doing pathology. I think his name was it Rick Kelly? Rick something. So then they got taken off that project and was given to somebody else. So yeah, I've not talked to Nathan's probably my closest person that I know of in BICSI.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what what kind of support I'd have from management here as far as, because you got to go to the conferences, and Josh and I, we're only allowed to go every other year, every third year right now. So
well, help us on the way. Help us on the way, because that's part of what I do here. Is we try to we actually have a number of we're trying to get the C-suite educated about what we're doing and why it's important. And again, it looks like things are really slow today. But if you go to our site, you'll see us every. In fact, we go through a lot. Our exhortations to the C-suite that that your money pays off in spades. It's true that it takes 3 to 5 years for it to pay off in spades, but our competitors are other nations who understand that it takes a while to do stuff, and you'll see that. Actually, you don't even have to come to our Focus teleconference. I put 3 industrialists from other countries who get it, and to the extent that the education industry needs to transform itself so that it moves in a direction that keeps costs from going up 5 to 10% a year, I think it's fair to say that you might want to take some lessons from other technology leaders who say, yeah, we will invest in something that takes 3 to 9 years to happen, or even 6 to 12 years. They have no problem with that, but our industry does. So that's the politics of what I'm doing, and we work on this. We actually had a pretty good teleconference on this before. So you should have travel funding to go to those twice a year. Let me say that again. Let me say that again, since it was recorded. Twice a year, or you pay Bob to go for one of those meetings, and then you go for the other meeting.
So who's going to tell our manager this? Because I want to be there when this happens.
Is that Bob Harris?
No, Bob's facilities. Ours is our director is John McFall, and then he's a peer of Joe Kriza. So when I was networking, Joe Kriza is my director. Now it's John McFall, and John is also the director over MyChart, which is probably one of the most critical healthcare applications we've ever had here, and that's where his focus is.
I'll have to figure that out. Well, I don't know. Those guys are running what? They're running $1 billion. No, I think you guys are running $4 billion. Would they consider having a meeting with somebody who runs 10 billion, 300?
I don't know.
Bob, are you hearing this, Bob? Are you hearing this?
Yeah. We're trying to explain to you people. We know there's a bit of a problem with some people that how can you possibly? And so that's why every month we revisit our numbers. They as we like to say here. I might get a little bit closer. Here's U of M's budget, and here's this is what we spend. The entire industry spent just the facilities. Just the facilities.
Yeah.
Well, if I can just kind of, I guess why we're on on a roll here. So Randy and I, we have seen high-paid consultants come in, provide their insight or input, in other areas, and we ourselves have went out and actually physically visited like environments and have collaborated with directors and managers and just pulled some great ideas and would have liked to incorporate those ideas, but you have to have the support of the upper management, and that's what our position, our primary responsibility has changed in the last 2 years along.
Yep.
Where Bob Scapoletti's familiar, design engineer typically handle we'll work on the preliminary design with architects and provide the input, enforcing the standards, inspections, and then so recently we've taken on a secondary responsibility, and that's project management. So that consumes a lot of our time right now, basically working on projects.
Well, we can, it may well be that you would use the same amount of time. It might be more effective if you're networking with others and some of the load is borne. Now, I personally can't do a lot of it. I have to direct a number of other disciplines, but there's a way to scale in this. I don't see their job is your job is you just described to me. You're doing more. They're asking you to do more in the same amount of time, and their job is to make you do more in the same amount of time for less money. That's what they do, and that's America. But there is a way to, and those constraints, force you to be creative about it. And I'm suggesting here that. Well, one of the tougher things I have to say, so let's say, well, Mike, how can I help you? Well, I'm saying, how many trips did you take jawboning your management struggles with other managers? Oh, I've been on the road 6 times. Well, how about you give 2 of those trips to one of your subject matter experts, and I'll take 10 to 20% out of your costs in 3 years. Will you do that? Shuffle around and. So I have to, I have an education campaign, but I can't change a culture that's only thinking in short term. So what I can do is move quickly and make them see the scale of what we're at, of what we're doing. So I actually, guys, there's 2 constraints. One is I have a time constraint. The other is that when I show my guy this, we're going to have to clip this because it's getting a little too big. I'm going to close this call out. We'll talk offline a minute. So gentlemen, so for the record, we'll meet again in 2 weeks. I think we need to talk to BICSI before the next teleconference. Bob, have you actually talked to the BICSI people about where they're?
I have not had anybody get back with me. I don't know if Randy and Josh have a relationship with Nathan and they think he might at least be able to give them some direction. Maybe they should talk to Nathan and see what he thinks about contacting BICSI.
Well, I'll contact BICSI if you guys have a problem. Just give me some names. Is this Todd guy? Is that the lead guy? I'll copy you on my stuff here. I don't mind giving him a ring. Is that his name? Todd? Todd Taylor?
He looks like he's the chair of this committee at this time.
Okay.
I don't know how often the chairs change.
Bob,
he'd be good to start with.
But Bob,
I am going to the winter conference this year.
Okay, fair enough. I'll send him.
February.
Okay.
I'll send him a query right after this. Let me stop this recording. So the program going forward, we're going to talk to them, and I'm trying to make a compromise of the time we've already invested in marking up this document and in what you've just told us, because I see a lot of issues in play. I'm proposing a unifying document that would be valid within 3 years. It's true I can't give you some immediate relief, but I think we could make this work. We could have something that now would be referenced into construction documents and become part of management O&M practice. And they're going to say, are you doing anything that's going to cost us more dollars? And they'll say probably will be equal dollars, but we'll probably get more value out of those dollars. So that would be the first pitch. I think we're all trying to steer away from that. And also included in that concept is the idea that you might be able to move faster with the times and deliver more life cycle out of your facilities. So let me. So our next teleconference is when it is. I'm going to stop this recording.